The lights in the great hall were bright and cold. They made everything look sharp and harsh. General Thaxver stood tall in the center of the room. His body was covered in thick, black armor that grew from his skin like a beetle's shell. He was 7 feet tall and twice as wide as any human. His forearms moved as he spoke, each one ending in claws that could cut through metal. Around him sat the most powerful military leaders in the galaxy. They came from different worlds, different species, but they all had one thing in common. They were strong, they were deadly. They had conquered dozens of worlds. Commander HFY was there, her long reptile body coiled in her chair. Her scales were green and shiny, and her yellow eyes never blinked. She had destroyed 3-star systems with her fleet. General Corax floated in a glass tank filled with purple gas. His people had no solid bodies, but they could control minds from across space. Prime Warrior Draketon sat on a stone throne, his rock-like skin glowing with inner heat. His people could melt steel with their bare hands. These were the leaders of the hegemony, the greatest empire the galaxy had ever seen. They had crushed every enemy they had ever faced. Today they were here to talk about their next target. Humans. General Thaxver raised one of his clawed hands. The room became quiet. He pressed a button on the table in front of him. A blue light appeared in the air above them. It showed the image of a man. The man was small. He looked weak. His skin was pale and soft, like it would tear if you touched it too hard. His hair was black and messy. He wore a simple uniform that looked too big for him. He had kind eyes that seemed to smile even when his mouth did not. "This," said General Thaxver, his voice making a clicking sound like breaking glass, "is what the humans call their best soldier." The alien generals looked at the image. Then they looked at each other. Then they started to laugh. It was not a pleasant sound. Commander HFY's laugh was like steam escaping from a broken pipe. General Corax's laugh made the gas in his tank bubble and hiss. Prime Warrior Draketon's laugh sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. "This is a joke," said Commander HFY. She pointed at the image with one of her clawed fingers. "Look at this thing. It has no armor, no claws, no fangs. No poison. How does it even survive on its own planet?" General Thaxver nodded. "His name is Marcus Chun. He is 24 years old. He weighs only 150 pounds. A single blow from any of us would kill him instantly." "What about their technology?" asked General Corax. His voice sounded like wind through empty caves. "Surely they have powerful weapons to make up for their weak bodies." Thaxver pressed another button. The image changed to show human weapons. Guns that fired small pieces of metal. Bombs that made loud noises. Ships that moved slowly through space. "Basic projectile weapons," Thaxver said. "Chemical explosives. Primitive space travel. They barely have faster than light engines. Most of their ships still use fossil fuels." Prime Warrior Draketon leaned forward. His stone face showed no emotion, but his eyes glowed brighter. "Then why are we even talking about them?" "They are not worth our time." "Because," said Thaxver, "they have something we want. Their colonies sit on rich mining worlds, rare metals, energy sources, resources that could fuel our empire for 1,000 years." He pressed the button again. The image changed to show a map of space. Red dots marked the hegemony's territory. It covered most of the galaxy. Blue dots marked human colonies. They were scattered along the outer edge of the galaxy, far from the major trade routes. "They have spread to 47 worlds," Thaxver continued. "Each one is poorly defended. Each one is ripe for conquest. We could take them all in less than a year." "And they cannot stop us?" asked Commander HFY. "Look at them," Thaxver said. The image changed back to show Marcus Chun, the young man, was sitting at a desk, reading something on a small computer. He looked calm and peaceful. "This is their elite soldier, their best warrior. He probably cannot even lift his own weight." The generals laughed again, but General Thaxver raised his hand for silence. "Do not underestimate the value of an easy victory. The other species in the galaxy are watching us. They wonder if the hegemony has grown weak after so many years of peace. When we crush the humans quickly and completely, it will send a message. It will remind everyone why they fear us. How do we know they will not call for help? Asked General Korax. From whom? Thaxfer replied, the humans have no allies. They are too young, too weak, too primitive. The other species see them as we do. As insects to be stepped on, Prime Warrior Draketon stood up. His massive form cast a shadow over the table. Then let us step on them. When do we begin? Soon, said Thaxfer. I have already chosen our first target, a mining colony on a world called Kepler 442. The has only 3,000 inhabitants. No military base, no orbital defenses. Just miners and their families. He pressed the button one more time. The image showed a small planet covered in brown rock and dust. There were a few small buildings scattered across the surface. Tiny specks moved between them. Those specks were people. We will make an example of this place, Thaxfer said. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who possess resources that belong to the hegemony. The humans will surrender their other colonies rather than face the same fate. And if they do not surrender? Asked Commander Zexhai. Then we will destroy them all, Thaxfer replied. Every last one of them. We will wipe them from the galaxy as if they never existed. The image changed again. Now it showed the inside of the mining colony. Humans walked through narrow corridors. They worked at machines. They ate meals together. They laughed and talked like they had nothing to fear. One of them was Marcus Chun. He was not mining like the others. He was in a small room with white walls. Medical equipment lined the shelves. He was bandaging the arm of an older man who had been hurt in an accident. Chun's hands were gentle and sure. He spoke softly to the injured man, making him smile despite his pain. Their medic, said Thaxfer, pointing at Chun. He is not even a real doctor. Just a support technician who learned basic medical care. This is what humans call a hero. The word hero was hard for Thaxfer to say. In the hegemony, heroes were warriors who killed thousands of enemies. They were generals who conquered star systems. They were beings of great power and terrible strength, not soft, weak creatures who bandaged small wounds. I almost feel sorry for them, said Commander Zexhai. They have no idea what is coming. Do not waste your sympathy, Thaxfer replied. They are in our way. That is enough reason to destroy them. General Korax floated closer to the image. His gas form pressed against the inside of his tank. When do we attack? My fleet is already moving, Thaxfer said. We will reach their mining world in 6 standard months. I will lead the assault personally. It will be over in hours. And then? Asked Prime Warrior Draketon. Then we move to the next human colony, and the next, and the next, until they are all gone and their worlds belong to us. The image of Marcus Chung continued to play. He had finished with the injured miner and was now cleaning his medical tools. He moved slowly and carefully, making sure everything was perfect. He did not look like a warrior. He did not look like a threat. He looked like someone who cared about helping others. 6 months, Thaxfer repeated. In 6 months, the human problem will be solved. The galaxy will remember why the hegemony rules and why resistance is futile. The alien generals nodded. They had heard enough. The plan was simple. The enemy was weak. Victory was certain. As they left the Great Hall, none of them gave Marcus Chun another thought. He was just another weak human on a distant world. Soon he would be dead, and his world would belong to the hegemony. They had no idea that this one small, gentle man would change everything. They had no idea that sometimes the strongest force in the universe is not the one that destroys, but the one that chooses to help. They had no idea that in 6 months, when their mighty fleet arrived at that small mining world, they would meet something more powerful than any weapon they had ever faced. They would meet humanity's greatest strength, the choice to never give up. The morning sun on Kepler 442b was always red. The planet's star was older and smaller than Earth's sun, so everything looked like it was covered in rust. Marcus Chin stood at the window of the medical bay, watching the miners walk to their jobs. They moved slowly in the heavy gravity, their boots making soft sounds on the metal walkways. 6 months had passed since the hegemony generals had laughed at his picture. But Marcus did not know about that meeting. He did not know that ships full of alien soldiers were coming to his world. He was just doing his job the same way he did every day. The medical bay was small and clean, white walls, white ceiling, white floor. Everything smelled like the cleaning chemicals Marcus used every morning. There were 6 beds for patients, though they were rarely all full. The mining colony was not a dangerous place. Most injuries were small cuts and bruises. Sometimes a broken bone when someone fell. Marcus was not a real doctor. He had learned medical care in the human military, but he was just a support technician. His job was to fix communication equipment and computer systems. But when the colony's only doctor had left 2 years ago, Marcus had stayed to help. Someone had to take care of the miners when they got hurt. He was good at it. His hands were steady and gentle. He remembered what everyone told him about their families back on Earth. He knew which medicines worked best for each person. Most importantly, he cared. In a place where everything was brown rock and metal buildings, Marcus made people feel like they mattered. The door to the medical bay opened. Tom Rodriguez walked in, holding his left hand against his chest. Tom was the head of the mining operation, a big man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been working the mines for 30 years. "Morning, Marcus," Tom said. "Got a little cut here. Nothing serious." Marcus looked at Tom's hand. There was a deep gash across his palm, still bleeding. "That's not little, Tom. Sit down and let me clean it." Tom sat on one of the beds. "Just slipped with the cutting tool. Happens all the time." Marcus washed his hands and put on thin gloves. He cleaned the wound carefully, making sure no dirt or metal pieces were inside. Tom watched him work. "You know," Tom said, "my daughter Sarah is about your age. She's a teacher back on Earth. I think you two would get along." Marcus smiled as he prepared the needle and thread. "You say that about every young woman you know, Tom? Well, you need to meet someone. Can't spend your whole life taking care of other people and never thinking about yourself." "I like taking care of people," Marcus said. He began to stitch the wound closed. His movements were smooth and sure. "It makes me feel useful. You are useful, more useful than you know." Marcus finished the stitches and covered them with a clean bandage. "Keep this dry for 3 days. Come back if it starts to hurt more or if you see any red streaks." Tom flexed his fingers. "Good as new. Thanks, Marcus." After Tom left, Marcus cleaned his tools and put them back in their proper places. He updated Tom's medical record on the computer. Then he sat down to read. He was studying advanced surgical techniques, hoping to become a better medic for the colony. The next patient was Jenny Walsh, a young woman who worked in the ore processing plant. She had burns on her arms from hot metal. Marcus treated them with special gel and bandages. Then came Pete Morrison, who had pulled a muscle in his back. Marcus gave him medicine for the pain and showed him exercises to help the muscle heal. Each person who came to see Marcus left feeling better. Not just because their injuries were treated, but because someone had listened to them, someone had cared about their pain. In a hard place like the mining colony, that meant everything. The day passed like all the others. Marcus treated injuries, updated medical records, and talked with the colonists. He ate lunch with the miners in the big dining hall. He helped Mrs. Chen, no relation, despite the same last name, with her arthritis medicine. He checked on the 3 children in the colony to make sure they were healthy. As the red sun began to set, Marcus was finishing his daily reports when the alarm started. The sound was loud and sharp. It echoed through the metal corridors of the colony. Everyone knew what it meant. Ships were approaching. Unknown ships. Marcus ran to the main control room. Other colonists were already there, crowding around the big screens that showed the space around their planet. Tom Rodriguez was at the main console, his face pale. "How many?" asked Sarah Kim, the colony's chief engineer. 47 ships. Tom said. His voice was quiet and scared. "Big ones. Military configuration. Marcus looked at the screen. The ships were black and angular like metal insects. They moved in perfect formation, getting closer every second. "Maybe they're just passing through," said Pete Morrison. But his voice showed he did not believe it. The communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect English, but it sounded wrong. Too deep, too harsh, like rocks grinding together. "Human. Colony of Kepler 442b. You are now under the control of the hegemony. Surrender immediately or face destruction. You have 1 hour to respond." The room became very quiet. Marcus felt his heart beating fast. He had heard stories about the hegemony. Everyone in human space had heard stories. They were the most powerful empire in the galaxy. They had destroyed entire civilizations. "What do we do?" asked Jenny Welsh. Tom looked around the room. "We have no weapons, no defenses. 3,000 people, including women and children." "We could try to evacuate," suggested Sarah Kim. "In what?" Tom replied. "We have 6 cargo ships. They're slow and can't carry everyone. Those alien ships would catch us before we reach the next system." Marcus listened to the discussion. The colonists were scared. They had good reason to be scared. But they were also trying to find a way to save everyone. That was what humans did. They tried to help each other. "Maybe we should surrender," said Pete Morrison. "If we don't resist, maybe they'll let us live. And maybe they won't," said Tom. "We don't know what they want." Marcus walked to the communication console. "Can I send a message to them?" Tom looked at him strangely. "What would you say?" "I don't know. Maybe ask them what they want. Maybe try to negotiate." Before Tom could answer, the screens lit up with new information. The alien ships were launching smaller craft. Hundreds of them. They were coming down to the planet's surface. "They're not waiting for our answer," Tom said. The next hour was chaos. The colonists tried to prepare for the invasion, but they had no weapons and no military training. They were miners, engineers, and support staff. They had come to this world to dig valuable metals from the ground, not to fight a war. Some people tried to hide in the deep mine shafts. Others gathered the children in the strongest buildings. A few brave souls tried to rig explosive devices from mining equipment, but they had no idea how to use them against enemy soldiers. Marcus went back to the medical bay. If there was going to be fighting, there would be wounded people. He prepared bandages, pain medicine, and surgical tools. He moved the beds away from the windows in case there was shooting. Through the window, he could see the alien ships landing. They were huge, each one the size of a city block. Ramps opened and soldiers poured out. Even from a distance, Marcus could see they were not human. They were bigger, stronger, covered in armor that looked like it was part of their bodies. The first explosions came 20 minutes later. The aliens were destroying the colony's power generators and communication equipment. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, but it was dim and flickering. Marcus heard shooting. Human voices crying out. The sound of metal being torn apart. The aliens were not just conquering the colony. They were destroying it. Someone pounded on the medical bay door. Marcus opened it to find Sarah Kim. She was bleeding from a cut on her forehead, and her clothes were torn. "They're everywhere," she said. "They're killing anyone who tries to fight." Marcus pulled her inside and closed the door. He cleaned her wound and bandaged it. "Where are the children?" "In the school building, but I don't think it's safe." "Nothing is safe." More people came to the medical bay. Tom Rodriguez with a broken arm. Pete Morrison with burns from an explosion. Jenny Walsh carrying an unconscious miner. Each one told the same story. The aliens were winning. The colony was falling. Marcus worked without stopping. He treated injuries, gave comfort to the scared, and tried to keep everyone calm. But inside, he was just as frightened as everyone else. He was not a soldier. He was not a hero. He was just a man who wanted to help people. Outside, the battle was ending. The human colonists had fought bravely, but they were no match for the hegemonies. Advanced weapons and trained soldiers. The aliens had taken control of the colony in less than 2 hours. Marcus heard heavy footsteps in the corridor outside the medical bay. The door opened and 3 alien soldiers entered. They were even more frightening up close, tall, armored, with weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Behind them came a figure that made Marcus's blood run cold. General Thaxfer himself. The alien commander looked around the medical bay with his compound eyes, taking in the wounded humans and the man who was treating them. So, Thaxfer said in his grinding voice, this is the famous Marcus Chun. Marcus did not know how the alien knew his name. He did not know that his picture had been shown to the Hegemony's War Council. He only knew that people were hurt and needed help. Please, Marcus said. These people are wounded. Let me treat them. Thaxfer laughed. It was the same sound the generals had made 6 months ago, cold and cruel. You still think you can help them? Your colony is destroyed. Your people are defeated. You are all prisoners now. I know, Marcus said, but they're still hurt, and I'm still a medic. For the first time, Thaxfer looked at the human soldier with something other than contempt. There was curiosity in his alien eyes. This weak creature should be begging for mercy. Instead, he was asking to help others. Your resistance is over, Thaxfer said. Surrender, and perhaps some of your people will live. Marcus looked around the medical bay, at the wounded colonists who trusted him to help them, at the children hiding behind the beds, at the faces full of fear and hope. He made his choice. I'll help anyone who needs help, Marcus said quietly. That's what medics do. And in that moment, though he did not know it, Marcus Chun changed everything. The news traveled faster than the Hegemony's invasion fleet. It jumped from colony to colony through the human communication network. Emergency channels carried the message to every human settlement in the Outer Rim. The mining colony of Kepler 442b had fallen. But something strange had happened there, Doc Captain Lisa Park sat in her command chair on the space station orbiting New Geneva. She was reading the report for the 3rd time, trying to understand what she was seeing. The official military report was simple. The colony had been destroyed. Most of the people had been killed or captured. The Hegemony had won, but there was another report. This one came from a refugee ship that had escaped during the attack. It told a different story. It told the story of Marcus Chun. He just kept working, the report said. Even when the aliens were shooting at us, even when the buildings were falling down, he kept helping people. He pulled Mrs. Davidson out of the burning cafeteria. He carried little Tommy Morrison to safety when his leg was broken. He set up a medical station in the middle of the battle and treated anyone who came to him. Captain Park had met Marcus Chun once, 2 years ago, when her ship had stopped at the mining colony for supplies. He had seemed like a quiet, gentle man. Not a soldier. Not a hero. Just someone who cared about helping others. The alien general came to arrest him, the report continued. Chun was bandaging a wounded miner. The general told him to surrender. Chun looked up at this huge, terrifying alien and said, I'll help. Anyone who needs help. That's what medics do. Then he went back to treating the wounded. Captain Park felt something strange in her chest. It was not fear, though she should have been afraid. The Hegemony was coming, and her station had no real defenses. It was not anger, though she had every right to be angry. It was something else. Something that made her sit up straighter in her chair. It was inspiration. She opened the station's communication system and called her senior officers to the bridge. Commander Sarah Walsh, the station's chief engineer, arrived first. She was a small woman with graying hair and steady hands. Behind her came Security Chief David Park, no relation to the captain, a former military man who had come to the station to escape the violence of his past. You've read the report? Captain Park asked. About the mining colony? Commander Walsh nodded. Yes, it's bad. The Hegemony is moving faster than we thought. What about the other report about Marcus Chun? Security Chief Park frowned. The medic? What about him? He stayed, Captain Park said. When everyone else was running, when the colony was falling, he stayed to help the wounded. He looked at the most powerful military force in the galaxy and said he would keep doing his job. And now he's probably dead, Security Chief Park said. That's what happens to heroes in real life. No, said Commander Walsh quietly. He's not dead, I checked. The hegemony took him prisoner, but he's alive. And he's still working in their prison camp, treating wounded prisoners. Captain Park stood up and walked to the main view screen. It showed the peaceful space around New Geneva. Ships came and went, carrying supplies and people. Children played in the station's parks. Families lived their lives without fear, for now. They're coming here next, Captain Park said. Intelligence says the hegemony fleet will reach New Geneva in 3 weeks. We can't stop them. We don't have the weapons or the ships. So what do we do? Asked Commander Walsh. We do what Marcus Chen did, Captain Park said. We do our jobs. We help our people. We don't give up. The words sounded simple, but they carried a power that surprised everyone in the room, including Captain Park herself. What does that mean exactly? Asked Security Chief Park. It means we evacuate as many people as we can, Captain Park said. It means we set up emergency shelters for those who can't leave. It means we prepare medical facilities for the wounded. It means we show the hegemony that humans don't break easily. Commander Walsh smiled. It was the first time she had smiled since reading the report. The mining equipment from the asteroid belt. We could modify it into defensive systems. Not enough to win, but enough to buy time for evacuations. And the communication array, added Security Chief Park. We could boost its power, send messages to other colonies. Warn them, help them prepare. Captain Park nodded. We're not going to win this battle, but we're going to fight it the right way, the human way. The same conversation was happening on dozens of human colonies across the Outer Rim. The story of Marcus Chun had reached them all. A simple medic who had looked at overwhelming odds and chosen to help rather than flee, who had faced the galaxy's most feared general and quietly insisted on doing his job on Terra Nova. Engineer Elena Rodriguez read the report in her small apartment. She was responsible for maintaining the colony's power grid. It was not exciting work, but it was important. People needed electricity for lights, heat, and life support systems. When the hegemony came to Terra Nova, Elena did not run. She stayed at her post in the power plant, keeping the lights on as long as possible. When alien soldiers stormed the building, she was still at her control panel, making sure the hospital had power for its life support systems. You could have escaped, her supervisor told her later as they sat in the hegemony prison camp. The evacuation ships had room, the hospital needed power, Elena said simply. That's my job, her supervisor looked at her with new respect. You sound like that medic from the mining colony? Marcus Chun, maybe, Elena said. Or maybe he sounds like all of us. Maybe we just forgot who we were for a while. On Harmony Station, teacher David Kim was facing his own choice. The hegemony fleet was 2 days away. Most of the station's population had already evacuated, but there were still 300 children whose families had not been able to leave. Children who were scared and alone. David could have taken the last civilian transport out. He had earned the right to save himself. But when he looked at the frightened faces of the children, he thought about Marcus Chun, a man who had chosen to help rather than flee. David organized the children into small groups. He set up games and activities to keep them calm. He told them stories about brave people who had faced hard times and never given up. When the hegemony soldiers finally arrived, they found David in the station school, reading to a group of 6-year-olds. You should have left, said the alien commander, confused by what he was seeing. These children needed someone to stay with them, David said. I'm their teacher. It's my job to take care of them. The alien commander had conquered dozens of worlds. He had seen species surrender, fight, and flee. But he had never seen anything like this. A human who stayed not to fight, but to comfort children. On New Sarajevo, Chef Rosa Martinez made a similar choice. As the hegemony invaded, she turned her restaurant into a field hospital. She cooked meals for the wounded and the medical staff. She organized other civilians to help carry supplies and comfort the injured. You're not a soldier, said Dr. James Wright, the colony's chief medical officer. You don't have to do this. Neither was Marcus Chun, Rosa replied, stirring a pot of soup for the wounded. But he did it anyway. If he can face down an alien general, I can cook some soup. The pattern repeated itself across human space. Ordinary people making extraordinary choices. Not because they were heroes, but because one quiet medic had shown them what was possible. Captain Park heard about each of these incidents. The reports came through the emergency communication network, shared by refugees and resistance fighters. Each story was similar. A human faced with overwhelming odds, choosing to help rather than flee. It's spreading, Commander Walsh told her. Whatever Marcus Chun started, it's spreading to other colonies. What do you mean? Captain Park asked. The hegemony is having problems, Walsh said, reading from the latest intelligence reports. Their invasion is taking longer than expected. Human colonies aren't surrendering as quickly as they thought. People are staying to help each other instead of running. Security Chief Park leaned forward. That's not military strategy. That's just being stubborn, maybe, Walsh said. But it's working. The hegemony expected to conquer 47 human colonies in 6 months. They've only taken 12, and they're having to use more resources than they planned. Captain Park thought about this. It's not about winning battles, it's about not giving up. About showing that humans don't break easily, like Marcus Chun, Walsh said. Like all of us, Captain Park corrected. Chun just reminded us who we are. The captain walked to the view screen again. In the distance, she could see the lights of New Geneva cities. Millions of people living their lives, raising their families, working their jobs. Soon, the hegemony would come for them. But Captain Park was no longer afraid. She was inspired. Send a message to all human colonies, she said. Tell them about Marcus Chun. Tell them about Elena Rodriguez and David Kim and Rosa Martinez. Tell them about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. What should the message say? Asked Commander Walsh. Captain Park thought for a moment. Tell them that we're not just fighting for territory or resources. We're fighting for the idea that it's better to help than to hurt, that it's better to stay than to run, that it's better to hope than to despair. And if they ask how we can win against the hegemony, tell them we don't have to win, Captain. Park said, we just have to be human. And humans don't give up. The message went out across the galaxy. It reached colonies that had already fallen and colonies that were still free. It reached refugee ships and resistance cells. It reached every human who was willing to listen. The message was simple. One medic had chosen to help instead of flee. That choice had inspired others, and those others had inspired still more. The hegemony had expected to conquer a species. Instead, they had awakened something much more dangerous. They had awakened hope. And hope, once it starts spreading, is very hard to stop. In his prison camp. On Kepler 442b, Marcus Chun continued his work. He treated the wounds of his fellow prisoners. He comforted the frightened children. He showed kindness to anyone who needed it. He did not know that his simple choice had inspired thousands of others. He did not know that his quiet courage had changed the course of a war. He only knew that people were hurt and needed help. That was enough. Because sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is not a weapon or a strategy or an army. Sometimes it's just one person choosing to do the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when it seems impossible. That's what humans do. They do the right thing anyway. General Thaxver stood in the command center of his flagship, the Dominator. The massive ship hung in space above the planet New Sarajevo, waiting for the invasion to begin. But something was wrong. The invasion should have been over by now. 6 months had passed since the easy victory on Kepler 442b. 6 months since Thaxver had crushed the mining colony and captured the weak human medic. The conquest of human space should have been complete. Instead, the hegemony was stuck fighting a war that made no sense. Report, Thaxver commanded his intelligence officer. Lieutenant KREK single quotes vo r. The smaller alien scuttled forward on his 6 legs. His voice was nervous. General, we have taken 23 human colonies, but the resistance is not weakening. It is getting stronger. Stronger how? Thaxver's mandibles clicked with annoyance. Their weapons are still primitive. Their ships are still slow. Their soldiers are still weak. Yes, sir. But they are not acting like soldiers anymore. They are acting like... Krekver paused, searching for the right words. Like something else. Faxford turned to look at the tactical display. It showed the human colonies they had attacked, each one marked with symbols showing the battle results. What he saw made his compound eyes narrow. Explain these casualty reports, he said. Sir, the humans are not fighting to win battles. They are fighting to delay us, to save their people, to help each other escape. That is not military strategy. That is suicide? Yes, sir. But it is working. We expected to conquer all 47 human colonies in 6 months. At this rate, it will take us 2 years. Maybe more. Faxford studied the reports more carefully. On Terra Nova, the human defenders had held the power plant for 6 hours longer than they should have. Not because they had better weapons, but because one engineer had refused to leave her post. She had kept the lights on for the evacuation. Ships, even when alien soldiers were shooting at her on Harmony Station, the human military had surrendered quickly. But one teacher had stayed behind with 300 children. He had organized them, kept them calm, and helped them survive until rescue ships arrived. The hegemony had found him reading stories to frighten 6-year-olds on New Geneva. A chef had turned her restaurant into a field hospital. She had no medical training, but she had fed the wounded and helped the doctors. When captured, she had asked if she could continue cooking for the prisoners. This makes no sense, Thaxfer said. Why do they stay? Why do they help each other? Instead of saving themselves? I do not know, sir. But it is happening everywhere. Even in our prison camps. What do you mean? Lieutenant Krekver brought up new reports on the display. The human prisoners are not acting like normal prisoners. They share their food with the weak. They take care of the sick. They comfort the frightened. They organize themselves to help each other, and it is affecting our guards, sir. Some of them are beginning to question why we are fighting this war. Thaxfer felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. What kind of questions? They ask why we are killing beings who only want to help each other. They ask if conquest is worth destroying something, So what? So good, sir. Thaxfer was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, show me the recordings from the Kepler 442b prison camp. The display changed to show video from the mining colony. The prison camp was a collection of metal buildings, surrounded by energy fences. Human prisoners moved around inside, doing their daily tasks. But something was different about how they moved. They helped each other. They shared what little they had. They took care of the children, and the old people. In the center of it all was Marcus Chun. The human medic had been given a small building to use as a medical station. Every day, prisoners came to him with injuries and illnesses. He treated them, all with the same gentle care he had shown before the invasion. He had even started treating some of the alien guards when they were hurt. He is still doing this? Thaxfer asked. Yes, sir. Every day, he has trained other prisoners to help him. They have created a medical system that is better than some of our military hospitals, and our guards allow this. They encourage it, sir. The human medical care is so good that our own soldiers come to Chun when they are injured. He treats them the same way he treats the human prisoners. Thaxfer watched the video more carefully. Marcus Chun was bandaging the arm of a hegemony soldier. The alien warrior, who could have killed the human with one blow, sat patiently while Chun worked. They were talking to each other like old friends. What are they saying? Thaxfer asked. Lieutenant Krekver played the audio. Marcus Chun's voice was soft and calm. How is your family? He asked the alien soldier. My offspring are well, the soldier replied. They ask about the strange human who fixes injuries without asking for payment. It's not strange, Chun said. It's just what medics do. We help anyone who needs help, but I am your enemy. You're hurt. That makes you my patient? Thaxfer felt something he had never felt before, confusion, in all his years of conquest. He had never seen anything like this. Enemies caring for each other, Prisoners helping their guards. People choosing to help when they could choose to hurt. Sir, said Lieutenant Kreckver, there is something else. The human colonies are starting to send us messages. Surrender offers? No. Sir, they are asking if we need medical help. If our soldiers are being treated well, if we want to talk instead of fight. They are asking if we need help? Yes, sir. Even as we attack them, they are concerned about our welfare. Thaxford turned away from the display. His mind was spinning. This was not how wars were supposed to work. Enemies were supposed to hate each other. They were supposed to fight until one side was destroyed. They were not supposed to worry about each other's health. Bring me the prisoner files, he said. Lieutenant Kreckler displayed the information on the screen. Thousands of human prisoners, each with their own story, but the stories were all similar. Teachers who had stayed to help students, engineers who had kept the central systems running, doctors who had treated wounded enemies, ordinary people who had chosen to help rather than flee. Look at this one, Thaxford said, pointing to a file. Elena Rodriguez, power plant engineer. She could have escaped on the last transport. Instead, she stayed to keep the hospital running. When we captured her, she asked if she could help repair our damaged equipment. And this one, Lieutenant Kreckver added. David Kim, schoolteacher? He organized the evacuation of 300 children. When our soldiers found him, he was teaching them songs to keep them calm. Rosa Martinez, restaurant owner. She fed our wounded soldiers while we were destroying her city. She said hungry people need food, no matter what side they are on. Thaxford looked at file after file. Each one showed the same pattern. Humans choosing to help instead of hurt. Choosing to stay instead of run. Choosing to hope instead of despair. They are all like Marcus Chun, he said quietly. Sir, the medic. He was not special. He was not unique. He was just showing us what all humans are like when they choose to be their best selves. Thaxford walked to the window that looked out into space. In the distance, he could see the planet New Sarajevo. The invasion was supposed to start tomorrow. His ships were ready. His soldiers were prepared. Victory was certain. But for the first time in his military career, Thaxford did not want to win. Sir, said Lieutenant Kreckver, what are your orders? Thaxford did not answer right away. He was thinking about something he had never considered before. What if the hegemony was wrong? What if conquest was not the answer? What if there was a better way? Sir? Kreckver asked again. Delay the invasion. Thaxford said. Sir, for how long? Until I can speak with the human leaders. Until I can understand what we are really fighting. I do not understand, sir. Thaxford turned back to the tactical display. It showed the positions of all the human colonies, each one filled with people like Marcus Chun, people who chose to help instead of hurt, people who stayed to take care of each other when they could have run to save themselves. I have been a soldier for 40 years, Thaxford said. I have conquered hundreds of worlds. I have defeated dozens of species, but I have never seen anything like this. Like what, sir? Like beings who care more about others than themselves, who help their enemies, who choose kindness over cruelty, even when it costs them everything. Lieutenant Kreckver looked confused. Is that important, sir? It might be the most important thing in the galaxy, Thaxford replied. And we are trying to destroy it. He walked back to the command chair and sat down. Around him, his officers waited for orders. For 6 months, those orders had been simple: attack, conquer, destroy. But now, Thaxford was not sure those were the right orders anymore. Open a communication channel to the human colonies, he said. Sir, I want to speak with their leaders. I want to understand why they choose to help instead of hurt. I want to know what Marcus Chun knows that we do not. The officers looked at each other with confusion, but they followed orders. The communication system activated. Soon, human voices were coming through the speakers. Voices of people who should have been enemies, but who sounded like they wanted to be friends. This is General Thaxford of the hegemony, he said into the microphone. I wish to speak with your leaders, not to demand surrender, but to ask questions. There was silence on the other end. Then a human voice replied. This is Captain Lisa Park of New Geneva Station. We are. Listening, General? Why do you stay? Thaxfer asked. Why do you help each other? Why do you not run when you could save yourselves? Because that's what humans do, Captain Park replied. We learned it from one of our own. A medic named Marcus Chun, he showed us that the strongest thing you can do is help someone who needs help. Even your enemies? Especially our enemies. If we can turn an enemy into a friend, we have won something better than a battle. Thaxfer closed his eyes. In his mind, he saw Marcus Chun in the prison camp, treating alien soldiers with the same care he gave to human prisoners. He saw Elena Rodriguez keeping the lights on for people she would never meet. He saw David Kim comforting frightened children while bombs fell around him. For the first time in his life, General Thaxfer understood what real strength looked like. It was not about weapons or armor or the ability to destroy. It was about the choice to help, even when it was hard, even when it was dangerous, even when it seemed impossible. And that choice, Thaxfer realized, was something worth learning from, not something worth destroying. 1 year later, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different. The same bright lights shone down on the same table where alien generals had once planned the conquest of humanity. But now, the room was filled with a different kind of energy, hope instead of fear, cooperation instead of conquest. General Thaxfer stood at the center of the hall, just as he had done a year ago. But he was not the same being who had once mocked the image of Marcus Chun. His posture was different. His voice was different. His eyes held a wisdom that had not been there before. Around him sat the same alien leaders who had laughed at humanity's weakness. Commander HFY of the Saurian Fleet, General Corax of the Ethereal Forces, Prime Warrior Draketon of the Stone. People, but they were not laughing anymore. They were listening. The invasion is over, Thaxfer said. His voice was quiet but strong. Not because we were defeated in battle, but because we learned something more important than victory. He pressed a button on the table. The same holographic display appeared that had shown Marcus Chun's image a year ago. But now the projection showed something different. It showed the prison camp on Kepler 442b. Human prisoners and alien guards were working together. They were building new houses for the children. They were planting gardens to grow food. They were teaching each other about their different worlds and cultures. This is what victory looks like, Thaxfer said. Not destruction, but creation. Not conquest, but cooperation. Not enemies, but friends. In the center of the projection, Marcus Chun was still doing his work. He was teaching a group of young hegemony soldiers how to treat injuries. His hands moved gently as he showed them how to clean wounds and apply bandages. The alien students watched carefully, asking questions and practicing on each other. The human medic, said Commander HFY. He is still there? By choice, Thaxfer replied. We offered to release him months ago. He said he wanted to stay, until he had trained enough medics to take care of everyone in the camp, human and alien alike. And our soldiers accept this? Asked General Corax. They request it, Thaxfer said. Marcus Chun has trained over 200 of our people in medical care. They are better healers now than they ever were fighters. Prime Warrior Draketon leaned forward. His stone face was hard to read, but his voice showed confusion. I do not understand. Why would our soldiers choose healing over fighting? Because, said Thaxfer, they learned what I learned. What we all learned? That helping someone feels better than hurting them. That building something feels better than destroying it. That making a friend feels better than defeating an enemy. He changed the projection to show other scenes from across the galaxy. On Terra Nova, human and alien engineers were working together to build a new power plant. On Harmony Station, alien children were learning alongside human children in the same classrooms. On New Geneva, restaurants serve food to beings from a dozen different species. This is happening everywhere, Thaxfer continued. Not just in the former war zones, but throughout hegemony space. Our people are learning from the humans. Learning that there is a better way to live. Better how? Asked Commander HFY. Watch, said Thaxfer. He showed a video from the capital world of the hegemony. In the great military academy where soldiers were trained, something new was happening. Young alien warriors were learning about medicine and engineering and teaching. They were still strong, still skilled in combat, but they were also learning to heal and help and build. Our finest warriors now compete to see who can save the most lives, Thaxfer explained. Who can build the most schools? Who can help the most people? The old ways of measuring strength through destruction seem primitive now. The projection changed again. This time it showed the meeting rooms where the hegemony's government made decisions. But the meetings looked different now. Instead of military leaders planning attacks, there were doctors and teachers and engineers discussing how to make life better for everyone. The humans have infected us, said General Corax, but he did not sound angry. He sounded amazed. Infected? You asked with what? Asked Prime Warrior Draketon. With hope, Thaxfer said. With the idea that we can be better than we are. That we can choose to help instead of hurt. That we can build instead of destroy. He showed more videos. Alien families adopting human children orphaned by the war. Human families welcoming alien. Refugees, scientists from different species working together to cure diseases and explore new worlds. But how did this happen? Asked Commander Zexhai. How did one weak human change an entire empire? Thaxfer smiled. It was a strange sight on his insect-like face, but it was genuine. Because he was not weak. None of them were weak. We just did not understand what real strength looked like. The projection changed to show Marcus Chun again, but this time it showed him from the beginning. The young medic treating injured miners, staying calm during the invasion, choosing to help the wounded even when alien soldiers were shooting at him, standing up to General Thaxfer himself and quietly insisting on doing his job. We thought strength meant the ability to destroy, Thaxfer said. But Marcus Chun showed us that real strength is the ability to create, to heal, to hope, to choose kindness even when the world around you is cruel. And this ... infected ... soldiers? Asked Prime Warrior Draketon. It inspired them, Thaxfer corrected. When they saw humans helping each other, even in the worst situations, it reminded them of something they had forgotten. Something we all had forgotten. What? That we are all connected? That hurting others hurts us too? That helping others helps us too? That we are stronger together than we are apart? The projection showed the final scene. Marcus Chun was standing in the courtyard of the former prison camp. But it was not a prison anymore. It was a school, a hospital, a place where beings from different worlds came to learn and heal and grow. Human children played with alien children. Human doctors worked alongside alien doctors. Human teachers shared classrooms with alien teachers. And in the center of it all, Marcus Chun continued his work, still gentle, still caring, still helping anyone who needed help. He never tried to conquer us, Thaxfer said. He never tried to defeat us. He never tried to change us. He just showed us who we could be. And that was enough. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Commander Zexhai spoke. What happens now? She asked. Now, said Thaxfer, we do what the humans do. We help each other, we build together. We explore the galaxy not to conquer it, but to understand it, to make it a better place for everyone. And if other species threaten us? Asked General Corax. Then we defend ourselves, Thaxfer replied. But we also offer them what Marcus Chun offered us. The chance to choose cooperation over conquest. The chance to choose hope over fear. The chance to choose love over hate. Prime Warrior Draketon stood up. His massive stone form cast shadows across the table. This is not the way of warriors. No, Thaxfer agreed. This is the way of healers, of teachers, of builders, of people, who understand that true victory is not about defeating your enemies, but about turning them into friends. The projection changed one final time. It showed the galaxy as it was now, not divided into territories controlled by different empires, but connected by trade routes and communication networks and friendship. Ships moved between worlds carrying Not weapons, but food and medicine and knowledge. The humans have given us something more valuable than any conquered planet, Thaxfer said. They have given us a future worth living for. He turned to look at each of the alien leaders. The question is, what will we do with it? Commander Zexhai was the first to speak. My fleet will carry medical supplies to worlds that need them. We will explore new planets not to conquer them, but to help them. General Korax nodded slowly. My people will use their mental abilities to heal trauma and fear. We will help beings understand each other instead of fighting each other. Prime. Warrior Draketon was quiet for a long time. Then he said, My warriors will become builders. We will use our strength to create instead of destroy. We will protect the weak instead of conquering them. Thaxfer smiled again. Then Marcus Chen's work is complete. Not because he defeated us, but because he showed us how to defeat ourselves. How to overcome our worst impulses and choose our best ones. The meeting ended, but the work was just beginning. Across the galaxy, beings who had once been enemies were learning to be friends. Species that had once fought each other were working together to solve problems and explore new worlds, and in a small school on a planet that had once been a prison camp, Marcus Chen continued his work. He taught young beings how to heal wounds and ease pain. He showed them that the strongest thing you can do is help someone who needs help. He did not know that his simple choice had changed the galaxy. He did not know that his quiet courage had transformed the most powerful empire in history. He only knew that there were people who needed help, and he was there to help them. That was enough, because sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is not a weapon or a strategy or an army. Sometimes it is just one person choosing to do the right thing, choosing to help instead of hurt, choosing to hope instead of despair, choosing to stay instead of run. And when one person makes that choice, it can inspire others. And those others can inspire still more. Until an entire galaxy is changed by one simple idea, the idea that we are all connected, that we are all valuable, that we all deserve help when we need it. That is what Marcus Chun taught the galaxy, not through speeches or battles or grand gestures, but through the simple act of being kind to everyone he met. And that, as it turned out, was the most powerful force in the universe. The force of human kindness, the force of never giving up. The force of always choosing to help. That is what humans do. They help anyway.